I just took a job with the defense for Sammy the Bogavano. Because somebody accused him of doing a homicide in Jersey. Kuklinski. Right?
Yeah.
The bottom line is Kuklinski dies and Bergen County washes out the case. But this guy Kuklinski was claiming that Sammy did that. Everything that I looked at, and I had all the discovery and all the other information, proved to me that he had nothing to do with it. It was the family of the victim's wife, the cop's wife, that was responsible for his death. But he was making a big thing out of this, and you're going to see it in his book when it comes out. It's going to be Sammy told him to do it and paid him to do it.
Right.
But there's no motive. He doesn't know how much money he got paid. He don't know what the weapon was. He don't know how he did it. You know, everything he did came out wrong. All right, so he didn't do it.
Okay.
The bottom line is, and I think he knew that we were looking at it. Maybe that's why he had a heart attack in the hospital. I don't know. Kuklinski was a lawyer. He said he was an organized crime hitman. He sold 2 HBO shows on TV, and they were trying to portray him as an organized crime hitman going all over the world. And our question to them was, who in organized crime did he hit? There wasn't anybody. Everybody that he hit, or they indicted him for murdering in Jersey, was an adversary of his or somebody he was robbing. And they weren't wise guys. So how did they portray him as this? I got called into HBO and they wanted to know from me if this guy was involved with Roy DeMeo. And I says, no. And they said, no, he was. And I said, no, he ain't. You're perpetrating a farce on the public.
Right.
You know. But they said, no, he's an organized crime hitman. He was involved with Roy DeMeo. According to the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and everybody else that we know, this guy Kuklinski had nothing to do with anybody in organized crime. In fact, he was an extortion victim of Roy DeMeo, who was trying to overtake the pornography industry in New York and New Jersey. And Roy and his crew committed like 7 or 8 homicides involved in taking over the pornography industry. And this guy was one of them. The cop, as bad as he was, didn't kill anybody. They accused him of killing his wife, but he didn't.
Right.
And the people that killed him, these 2 brothers, who were related to his wife, walked away from this thing. Because by the virtue of the fact that they got a lawyer, and the lawyer said, don't talk to my client anymore, Bergen County, who had the homicide, dropped it. So when Kuklinski came up, that was beautiful, you know. They just went and talked to Kuklinski, and they indicted Sammy the Bogavano on the basis of what Kuklinski said, uncorroborated.
Right.
There was no information that he did this. Here's a guy that says, "Oh, Sammy gave me a cell phone." The victim got killed March 12th of 1980. There were no cell phones.
Gotcha.
That's only one of the things that were wrong. There was a
Right.
lot of things there that weren't right, you know, which could prove that he didn't do it, Kuklinski. But he claimed he did. Or they wanted me to verify the fact that Kuklinski was involved with Roy DeMeo.
Right. And you just
As far as Dominick knows, or anybody else knew in that crew, Kuklinski came to the Gemini once. He bought a gun off Roy and Joey Testa, and that was the end of it. And meanwhile, they were going to Jersey once a month to pick up money from those people. You know. Kuklinski was a pornography guy from Jersey. That's all he was. He was a young kid that was being brutalized by everybody around him. He was a skinny kid, and to me, he was just like a schizophrenic personality that that was oppressed by everybody, and he lived in this fantasy world that he was an organized crime hitman. And that's how he sold his information. He sold HBO, he sold a book. I can't wait for this book to come out.
Right.
And if I was Sammy's family, I would sue him. And they may. I still got all the information that I worked on, you know,
Right.
that proves that he didn't do it.
Interesting.
It's like that idiot, that Iceman schmuck, you know, that Sammy the Bull hired him to do a hit. What the hell do we need that Pollock for? We got like 200 hitters here in Brooklyn. We need to go to Jersey and hire some idiot to do a hit? Come on. he claims to be a lot of shit. He claims in his interview on TV that he hung out at the Gemini Lounge. And believe me, he didn't hang out at the Gemini Lounge. He came there one time and bought a gun. And that's the only time he was at the fucking Gemini. You know, because that crew would have taken him apart just for his mouth.
The only thing that I ever heard, the only time I've ever heard him mentioned was from Kenny McCabe. And you know who Kenny was. And Kenny was the closest guy to him. He did more with Kuklinski than anybody else. Because he used to tell me when I would go into the city and have lunch with him and things like this. I was already retired. And he used to tell me, this guy is lying, but they want to believe him because he's saying things they'd like to clear and things like that. But he said, Kenny kept catching him in lies, and he never.
He said he killed Roy DeMeo.
Yeah. Then Frank told me that. He claims he killed Roy DeMeo. Now we know he couldn't get within a mile of Roy DeMeo, and if he did, he'd be dead. So.
Well, Frank said he couldn't even identify what was in the trunk with Roy when you said.
Yeah. Now, how could you not know what was in that trunk? It was one of the most shocking things we ever saw. I was there when we popped the trunk out.
Oh, you were there?
I was there, and when we popped the trunk on his caddy, and I was standing right next to the guy banging it. Thing pops open, right on top is a chandelier, or a shade for a chandelier or something, big lampshade, or chandelier, I'm not sure. Chandelier. I mean, it was huge, sitting right on top of him. So they pull that out, and of course then Roy's hands are up, he'd been shot through his hands. We had informants that were telling us that Roy DeMeo is going to be clipped by the Gambino family. For the simple reason that they didn't trust him. Not because they thought he would go talk on his own, but he couldn't take pressure. He couldn't take the heat.
Yeah, he was eating Valiums.
Yeah.
And he was eating a handful of Valiums.
Yeah, well, you know that part. I don't know, but that was our word that he was going to be clipped, and he was going to be clipped because they didn't feel once he was arrested and the pressure was put on him, he would fold and he would make a deal and testify, and so that's why he had to be killed, and so we knew that.
How did you find him?
Well, I ran a couple of surveillances on him. He went to that girl's house in Brooklyn one night that me and Phil Scala, another agent, he's now the supervisor of the Gambino family squad. Phil was just a young agent. I actually got him on our squad. I got Phil when he first came to New York. He was such a sharp young agent that I told Bruce Mao, you got to get this kid on your squad. He's the best agent I've seen in years.
What I mean, how did you know where the car was and blah, 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 blah?
We had an informant, but I guess knew the girl, Patty.
Yeah,
Patty. Yeah, who was a bar
She was a
tender at the barmaid at the Gemini.
She was also a junkie.
Yeah, we knew that too. But whoever it was, I think she may have been the informant. I
Well,
forget.
she was always there, right?
I would say she might have been the informant, but I never knew who the informant was, and I had no need to know it. And in the bureau, you don't ask who the informant is unless somebody wants to tell you. You never ask who the informant is. She probably was the informant. Now that I think about it, because she said, or whoever said it, said that Roy DeMeo is going to come to her house. We had the address and the whole thing, at like 7:30 that night, a particular night, and he was going to interview her about something that happened at the club. Maybe, I don't even know what it could be.
Well, I know he killed that kid over her.
Yeah, see, I don't know. It was something that she knew about.
Well,
And he was coming to ask her about it, whatever it was.
Well, the story that I know, because I was there when it happened,
Okay.
is she was after this guy, this young guy, that used to come to the Gemini. Had nothing to do with the DeMeo crew, nothing like
Right.
that. But she really wanted to go out with this kid, and he wouldn't go out with her. So what happened was she told Roy to get even with this kid that he called Roy a motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that. That's
when
right.
me
Yeah.
and Roy was standing outside, he walked the kid out. He said, don't worry, he says, all you're gonna get is a smack or something like that. They got into the caddy, and
whacked him.
Carlo Profeta was there too. And then we started to pop in the flash, and the kid go down. And Roy just drove around, opened up the window, said, I'll be back in a minute. Took off, and came back with another car. And
That's probably what she was going to be.
yeah, because I know she was directly involved in that.
Okay, well then that was what it was. Anyway, Phil and I covered that, and we were outside. It was wintertime. It was wasn't. I'll tell you, we did that surveillance within a month or less before he was killed, because we knew that he was going to be killed. I mean, the word was out he was going to be killed. In fact, I think they even told him he was going to be killed. Remember I told you we had the wire on a bug at Angelo Ruggiero's house. And it was down in his playroom, his den. That's where his office, quote, office was. And he would meet with guys down there. That's why we had a bug there. One of the guys he used to meet regularly, 2 or 3 times a week, was John Gotti's brother, Gene Gotti. Angelo and Gene were good friends. Now, John was his best friend, but John was, moving up the line, and he was like, he wasn't around as much like as he used to be with Angelo. But Jeannie Gotti was regular, because by that time, John was a capo, and John was reporting to Paul Castellano. He was going up on Sunday mornings to Castellano's house, meeting along with Jimmy Brown, Fiala, all the capos.
Yeah, Nino.
Up to the house and meet with Castellano. One day, Jeannie Gotti goes into Angelo's house, and he's kind of whispering it, like low voice, but we did get it up so we could hear it. And Jeannie says, you know what Paulie told John yesterday? Because this was a Monday, and Sunday was Sunday morning, because they used to meet on Sunday mornings because the FBI doesn't work on Sundays, except we do. Because I was up, I used to, that was one of my jobs, was to go run that Sunday surveillances. Anyway, Jeannie says, you know what Paulie told John yesterday? He wants him to take a look at Roy DeMeo. But when he says that, that's how the boss would say something to you. Cryptic,
Yeah, sure.
He'd never say, I want you to kill him.
Right.
Take a look at him. And that really interpreted it. And Jeannie interpreted it. I mean, Jeannie says, he told John to take a look at him. And you know what that means? It means he wants John to take a look at Roy and his crew to see if we have to kill him, can you do it? And then Jeannie says, Roy DeMeo? Says, he's got an army around him. You can't get near that guy. He's got all those young guys. He said, you can't get near the guy. So, and John said that. And he says, John said to me, we can't get near this guy. Because Roy didn't trust John Gotti either. He was afraid. He was the most afraid of John Gotti. But John Gotti was afraid of Roy. And John said, I can't get, my crew we can't kill Roy. So that means his own crew has to do it.
Right.
Which is what they did.
Who actually killed him? Do we know?
We think Nino was there, because I don't think anybody, he wouldn't come, it was at night. They lured him in to the club, that's what we know, I mean to the garage. And Patty tested his garage. And we just think the crew was there, probably the main guy, Joey, Anthony,
Henry.
Okay.
I mean,
Henry, they probably all were
They're
there.
probably all there.